everybody.
I like bearded Alan. You look good there. I like the beard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
This
Yeah.
show needs its own Gary Delabate.
Yeah.
I know. I have two women in my house who do not like the beard, so it's not coming back anytime soon. Hey everybody, let's talk. Let's go to Alan's Corner, and this little article came up. A race storm erupts after Andrea Riseborough Best Actress nomination. The two Leslie Stars unexpected nomination has led to claims of exclusion of Black performers and the revival of the Oscar So White hashtag. To which I would respond, hey, Michelle Yeoh and Ana de Armas are not white. And this is my. You have two fantastic performances. You may not have liked Blonde, but you have to admit, Ana de Armas gave great performances. I feel like they deserve to be Oscar nominated. But this has been my struggle with the civil rights movement, the so-called civil rights movement since the 80s, and that it means Black. It doesn't mean anyone else. And so, and so this story, I don't know what it did, but it just brought all my emotions of growing up, of being Asian in America, and realizing, there's this big Civil War battle going on, and you're not a part of it, and they don't consider you a part of it either. And I'll give you an example. Another example, when I was looking at possibly going into Hollywood, maybe going into the area of comedy. I thought, hey, Second City is my favorite. All my favorite comedians came out of Second City. I'd love to train there. I'd love to study there. And so I go to their diversity website, and there we go. That's diversity. Hey, look, I feel seen. And this has been what diversity for me has been since the 80s up until now. Obviously, they've updated the website recently, and so it looks much more diverse. But to me, my problems with liberalism at that time, with the whole diversity angle, is that it's really not diverse, and that Latins and Asians always get left behind. I will always say, Asians are basically treated like white people, but without the privilege. And I have many examples of this. I had friends, we would talk about Kubo and the Nine Strings. All my friends would say, hey, that's such a great movie. And I go, yeah, but Charlize Theron isn't exactly Asian, and that this role was meant to be an Asian. And they would tell me, yeah, but that's a cartoon. And so, you can fudge in that area. And then when Coco comes out, the same people who told me it's a cartoon were saying, oh yeah, damn right, it's all Latin actors. And so let me see.
It's actually Kubo and the Two Strings, which is a great stop motion animated film. Mm-hmm. I love that movie. I mean, look, as someone, I grew up watching a lot of, I guess you could call it foreign cinema. Foreign cinema is not even a proper name. Did you know you're not supposed to use the word foreign cinema? Because you're supposed to say world cinema. I go back
to say international.
International, world cinema, but you're not supposed to use the word foreign. I grew up watching Toho monster movies. I grew up watching Johnny Sacco and his giant robot, or Ultraman. There wasn't a lot of diversity there. And also, even look, I got a car when I was 16 so I could go to the movies, not because I wanted to date girls, because I had to go to the movies every week. And I would see a lot of foreign films, international films, as it were. I just thought about, tell me a good story. And in particular, tell me a story that's authentic from that country. I want to
but as an Asian American who's in America, the idea of me getting into a big movie, the idea of starring in a movie, just being in a movie, writing, just being in Hollywood, there were barriers galore, and they still are. And look, I get it. I think, I'm always merit based. But when we talk about diversity nowadays, it's never about merit. It's never about saying, hey, here's a great Asian writer, let's hire them. It's about just picking, hey, they look Asian, and you get stuff like She-Hulk. you're hiring now a diversity hire who has no real legitimate reason to be doing comedy, and all that does now is it waters down what real artists of color can do when you just hire people based on it, and based on skin color. And to me, that's the most demeaning. It's it's this idea that we can't prove ourselves.
There's also another side.
What?
There's also another side to this, Alan. Could you bring up that To Leslie article again?
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Now, also, I want to get Christian, your take on this.
Yeah.
But
by the way, about the To Leslie article, not in a single moment is Michelle Yeoh or Ana de Armas mentioned in this article.
Well, that's a problem right there. But the second thing is, I know that the To Leslie campaign, because we were all, I think, surprised by Andrea Riseborough's nomination. It wasn't really something that was top of mind for people. I think a lot of people thought about Michelle Yeoh and in particular Cate Blanchett. I think it's really between the two of them. But her nomination came out of thin air, but the rules were followed. They had the way they mounted the campaign was they had private screenings of the movies, of them filmed To Leslie. It got a limited theatrical release, as a lot of small indies do. They followed the rules as written, but now they want to get more specific. And what bothers me about this nomination is that a small movie should be able to do this. A small movie should be able to get attention, mount a campaign that doesn't cost a lot of money. Otherwise, here's what's going to happen. The Oscars are going to be bought and sold. The Oscars are going to be bought by whoever spends the most money on a campaign. And I can tell you, I don't want to say, but a lot of the Oscars that were nominated for Best Picture, they spent a lot of money on their campaigns.
Yeah. Speaking of money,
a lot of money.
Speaking of money, Andrea Riseborough's campaign, her Oscar campaign, was $0. She had no money.
Well, she reached out directly, and she had other actors of note. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Kate Winslet was one of the actors.
Yes.
Charlize Theron, I believe, was one.
So
I didn't think Kate Blanchett was one.
They literally not Kate Blanchett. Sorry. I'm spaced.
Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet. That's who I was thinking of. They hosted private screenings of her film with Oscar voters to say, hey, here's a movie you might want to throw into the mix. They weren't buying their vote. They were simply saying, hey, you may want to be aware of this performance and this actress, this British actress, Andrea Riseborough.
No, here's the list: Edward Norton, Charlize Theron, Jennifer Aniston, and Kate Blanchett.
Yeah. Okay. So she did. Okay. But there's nothing wrong with that. What this is going to result in is people wanting to shut out grassroots campaigns. And I don't like, just as someone who's been around indie film for a long time, I don't want to see that. I want to see a good mix. Now, I think that smaller indie movies are overrepresented at the awards now. This is why the Oscars, I'm predicting it now. This is why the Oscars will have the lowest ratings ever in the history of the Oscars is going to be this year. Because most of the movies, with the exception of Top Gun Maverick and Avatar, which are both going to lose for Best Picture, they're going to win some technical awards, but they're going to lose. These movies that are going to win, no one will have seen. And they don't, and there's a reason for it. They don't resonate with the majority of people. We've talked a lot, Christian. I want to hear your thoughts on all aspects of this. What do you think?
I think the average moviegoer doesn't realize just how much campaigning goes on behind the scenes for these awards. You know, everyone here, it's kind of what we cover, so we get it. But I mean, I get a lot of stuff around this time of the year because of the award season. I'm part of the Critics' Choice Association, and I get bric-a-brac and toys and stuff things and tons of money just directed at me to kind of influence my voting or to kind of, give me a heads up that this movie is coming. There's just so much, schmoozing and pressing the flesh and giving more and more interviews. And a lot of this costs a lot of money. So I think that's kind of dispiriting. It's almost like a political campaign. And I agree with you, Chris. I want there to be surprises. I want there to be curveballs. I think one of the many reasons why the Oscars are dull now is because by the time you got the SAG Awards and the Critics' Choice and the Golden Globes and this award and that award, you know who's going to get nominated almost to a fault. So where's the fun? Where's the excitement? Where's the unexpected news? It's almost non-existent now. And you shouldn't need a ton of money to get a Best Picture nomination or a Best Actor nomination. You should just be good. But that's kind of getting pushed away. It's just so predictable now. You guys kind of tipped on this a little while ago, but I think about 5 years ago, the New York Times had a story, and within that story about the Oscars, they say they do rate, they can kind of measure the ratings minute by minute about each telecast. And when the Oscar show gets political, the ratings droop, the viewers droop. And I'm thinking, if you know that, I would just kind of knock on Jimmy Kimmel's door and say, hey, Jimmy, just play it straight. Don't get into politics. Maybe even coax the audience or coax the nominees. Guys and gals, if you can just kind of chill with the politics a little bit, we want as many people as possible watching the show. That would make a difference potentially, but they know that, and they still go heavily into the politics, even though they understand the ratings will droop because of it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that they haven't, they haven't retooled the show itself. At the end of the day, it is a show, and there are plenty of Oscars that are given out not on camera, which is disheartening for those receiving it. But like, I feel like also the way the Oscars go about it, they give all these technical awards. With all due respect to the technical awards, people are waiting for celebrities to give speeches. And if you look up, I encourage everyone to do this. Go to the Oscars YouTube channel, look up Oscar speeches from 1993. I'm going to throw out a year, 1993, and watch someone like Clint Eastwood or a Gene Hackman receive an award. They get up, they thank everyone, they say something kind of inspiring that applies to anyone watching. They don't get on a soapbox. They give their speech, and I couldn't believe I went down a rabbit hole of watching old Oscar speeches. Probably the best Oscar speech ever given in the history of the Oscars was Steven Soderbergh. He had 2 movies he directed that year, and God, why am I spacing on the one that won? But he gave
Traffic?
the best. What was it?
Was it Traffic?
Yes. Thank you. It was Traffic. And he got up and he gave a speech, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but his speech was along the lines of, he said, I'm going to thank the people personally later that helped me get on stage. But I want to say, and then he gave a speech. He goes, I'm dedicating this Oscar to everyone out there who every day gets up and does something creative. And I thought it was so profound, obviously much more profound and eloquent when he said it, but this was preceded by a ton of speeches where people get up and name names that only mean something to the person who's hearing their own name, right? So he said, well, I'm not going to get up and spend my minute or 90 seconds thanking people you've never heard of. I'm going to get up and I'm going to give a speech about creativity. I've always loved Steven Soderbergh. He runs his, whether he does a big movie or a small movie, he runs the set like a small indie movie. Always been a fan. And I'll never forget a letter he sent me in the 80s where he basically proceeded to tell me how much he hated Film Thread. I'm serious. He sent me this letter. It was probably 1987, 88. Told me, like, at the time, he taught film. Was it in Louisiana? And he sent me a letter. This is around just right before Sex, Lies, and Videotape, or right after. He sent me a letter talking about Film Thread, how much it sucked, and this was bad, and this whatever. And then he said, oh, yeah, please find a check enclosed for all the back issues of Film Thread and a subscription. So he was fucking with me, which I thought was another reason why I like him. I've interviewed him a couple times. That guy is no bullshit. But
by the way, his new Magic Mike is woke, apparently.
Is it? Oh, I'm seeing it.
Yeah, the reviews are in, and a bunch of reviewers, shockingly, were not even happy with the woke. They say it's like uber feminist and very in your face and very cloying and obvious.
Well, I'm seeing it tomorrow. I'll have a review on Friday. Why am I seeing it tomorrow? I'm seeing it tomorrow because Alan
the fans wanted you to see it tomorrow.
No, our viewers, they made the choice. We did a poll. Alan has been dutifully reviewing every episode of Velma that's come out. In fact, he'll be watching them tomorrow, right, Alan? It's the season.
The last 2 episodes. They will be the greatest episodes ever.
So on
Alan,
Friday,
you're gonna have PTSD from that show.
On Friday, Alan will have reviews of the season finale of Velma. I will have a review for you of Magic Mike's Last Dance. and
Well, here's
Alan
a
and
question. Did you guys
Yeah.
get a press screening for Magic Mike? Because I did not.
Nope, I
And
didn't
actually,
either.
I did.
I fought for
I
one,
did.
and they couldn't do it.
Oh, tell Christian
I
why
got
you
one.
got invited. Tell Christian why you got invited.
Oh yeah, because I have a diversity contact.
Really?
So they do separate screenings. This is what some of the studios have done. Christian, I smell an article. They do a
Hey, you're gonna ruin it for me. It's
they do a separate screening. What do they call the screening exactly?
they don't call it anything, but I will say when I show up,
It's basically
predominantly people of color, minority.
Wow.
yes, it's the whites excluded screening. I've even asked Alan if I could go, and Alan's like, Alan would be happy for me to be his +1. I have no problem. Alan has asked the publicist in charge of this initiative, and I am not allowed to go to these screenings.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Right.
Not even as a
all
+1?
all they do is say no. You're ruining this for me. It's
How am I ruining it?
no, because these are the greatest things ever. I appreciate being invited,
Oh.
and I love going to them. And I'm
this is a
sorry
gr-
I can't bring you.
This is a great story. I don't know if I want to ruin Alan's gig though. I feel torn.
You should, Christian. You should do a story because this is the things. Now, look. First of all,
I will say it's Warner Brothers who's
okay,
who's
but
doing this
let me be clear. I actually like the idea of more people coming to screenings.
Mhm.
Smaller media outlets, whether they're YouTube channels, smaller media outlets like websites. To me, the more seats at the table, the better. The problem is what they've turned it into is let's take the establishment critics that have been talking about this stuff for years, in particular the critics that are not of color, so to speak, and let's exclude them from these screenings. So in my mind, I'm like, hey, the more the merrier. Let's have 2 screenings. Let's get it in a bigger theater. The more critics with differing opinions, I want to read that stuff. But when you're excluding a very specific group of people, that is not inclusion, that's exclusion. And I'm not in favor of that. I want more
So
people.
Chris,
to
how
come
does
to
it
the party.
feel?
First of all, I don't care. I mean, I got my
No,
got
you care. You care.
no, it's just to me, it further creates a divide because other people, and Christian, you're going to write an article about it. I can't wait for you to break this article.
I definitely could destroy my.
No,
I get it. Yeah.
It's we want more people included, not people excluded. And that's when I see all these, any inclusion initiative, it's a code for something else.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, but you also did bring it up. This is really, I mean, yeah, there are not a lot of white people there, but these are small outlets. These are small outlets trying to get access.
Well, good. Invite them to the party. No one can. I want more of that.
Yeah,
I love it. So I know we're about to have our I think we're gonna pivot here. I wanna make sure that all of you know about Christian Toto's book. I should zoom in a little more. Should I zoom in more? I want you to remember this book. I bought I did buy the audio version of Virtue Bombs.
I've never heard the audio version.
What's that?
I never heard the audio version. Is it any good?
It's really good. It's
Okay.
I am a huge fan of I used to complain about LA traffic. All I do is I schedule my driving around what book I'm going to listen to. Seriously. But
I don't know. There's a lot of condescending tones throughout the narrative. No.
no, it's narrated by Chris Abel. Have you met Chris Abel?
No clue. My publisher kind of set it in motion. So
there you go. But I just want to let everyone know, I want to thank Christian for being here. Christian Hollywood, what is it? Your social media?
Oh, it's on Twitter. It's at Hollywood in Toto. That's my website, hollywoodintoto.com. And my podcast is rebooting next week so that the Hollywood Toto podcast will be out. And I'll hopefully be interviewing folks from across the aisle and all sorts of people. So look forward to that.
Well, interview Alan, but don't interview me. Because
that's my
plan. Christian, hey, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah,
I follow you on social. Love you. Reach out to Alan. I'll connect you by email if you want to write that article. It's I just think first of all, I think it's interesting. But again, my philosophy is more seats at the table. Let's not exclude anybody. That gets
You're just jealous you couldn't get into the Magic Mike screening.
That's there you go. Look, I'm paying to see Magic Mike on Thursday. And I'm doing it so you don't have
Someone has to.
All right. Take care, Christian. We'll
Thanks,
see
guys.
you. You'll be back on the show again. Thanks again.